we're up to our entire interview with Rik Emmett, one of my favorite, if not my favorite person to ever interview. I mean, I really care about the guy. I've interviewed him so many times. And when I talk to him, and I hope it comes through in the interview, that I always feel like I'm talking to a friend. I can't even name how many times I've talked to the guy. When I was co-chair of the Canadian Smooth Jazz Awards, he was doing jazz, so we were talking all the time. His solo years before that, and now since there's always a conversation at least once or twice a year, sometimes more. His new autobiography is Lay It on the Line. The links are at the very top of the description where you can pick it up. But in these clips, he talks about how he made good with the Boys in Triumph. Some of the times where he knew he had to leave the band, rules to life and how to get what you want, pulling a fast one on Ted Nugent, all his favorite guitarists. You'll see him holding up pictures if you're watching the video version of this. And if you're watching the podcast, there'll be links to the video version and a lot more on Rock History Music.
I like talking to you because we're not just, talking about, so when Triumph played in Cleveland,
How you been?
I've been doing a lot of interviews. So
oh my God, I can imagine. I just finished it, by the way.
Did you? What do you think?
Oh my God. You know what? I wasn't surprised because I've interviewed you quite a few times. And I wasn't surprised. I'm glad you didn't go into the heavy Triumph stuff right away. It's like, I think someone would get to know you a little bit and what you're about, what makes you tick before you got to that chapter.
Yeah.
And then you ended it with more interesting stuff, parts of life. I love the fact that you add your albums listed like that you loved. I loved everything about it.
Oh, thanks, John. One of the things that, got me started in a good way was that I've had almost 2 decades of a fan forum on my website. And at one point,
which you quote.
Yeah. And my web manager person, Adrienne Duncan, I said to her, Adrienne, can you send me, I don't need the questions. I just need the answers that I gave to questions in emails for, the last, and there was like 5,000 pages of stuff. So it was more a question of editing and pruning and, deciding, but there's questions there that get asked over and over and over. And you realize, well, these are the ones that obviously people want the answers to, so I think part of it, for me, obviously music is something where I do get a very spiritual sense. But I think of it as human spirit. I don't think of it as a spirit that exists in some sort of, cosmic, universal kind of way. But that's not to say that I don't get those, the whole thing about if you're having psychological problems and you should maybe go and do forest bathing, or you just need to take a walk in the rain or whatever. And I go, no, I get that. I totally get that, because you do get a sense of the cosmic expanse of the universe when you watch a sunset and you're in the right mood, or the glass of wine and the and the sunrise are just hitting you at the right moment. I guess glasses of wine should happen at sunset, not sunrise, but anyhow, you get the idea. Like I don't know, I feel like all human beings have that need for a spirituality. It's just a question of where are you going to place it? Where are you going to find it? And for me, it's art. For me, that's why I wrote the book.
You know what you wrote? You wrote, because I copied and pasted it from the book because I have a PDF version of it, right? So it's easy to copy and paste. People will say, don't you want the book? I'm going, it's a lot easier if I have a PDF and it's cheaper for everybody. In the Art of Music section, you write, music is the closest thing we've got to a place where humanity meets our desire to connect to the universe. There you go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And that's the truth of it, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Some of that
Thanks for the interview.
Yeah, thanks. See you later, John. One of the things I loved about the book is you name the teachers. You tell me something about them, and you name them. You haven't forgotten them.
No. And credit really does need to go where credit is due. If here I am finally at the age of 70, I've written a book and I've put it out. And I had teachers back when I was in grade 9. I had a teacher say, maybe someday I think you're going to be a writer, although, I've been doing a lot of interviews lately, and I remembered something. when I was in Sunday school, when I was 12 years old or 13, there was a woman named Margaret Alsop. And she said to me, I think you're going to be a minister someday. Because I was the president of my Bible class, and I really did have a good solid understanding of the Bible, and I could quote scripture, and my mom had been a very strong, religious right up until her passing. She remained religious, and she and I had a pretty big falling out when I was 12, 13 years old, But credit goes where credit's due. There were folks along the path where you go, oh yeah. And this is the thing about writing a memoir too, John. I mean, I recommend it for everybody, really. I think everybody should have to do it later in their life, because when you're forced to sort of go back and remember these things, you start to realize, so my life was on a path, and then that moment was one where I sort of hit a brick wall and went left, and then I fell off a cliff, and then this happened. And those moments, those hit the wall, drop off the cliff, have a teacher that gives you a sense of yourself on a creative level that you've never really understood before. Those kinds of moments, you realize, oh, those were the ones that changed my life, more than, I don't know, getting a plexiglass trophy for being the best guitar player. You go, oh, thanks very much. But this isn't really changing my life. But, when I was 17 years old playing football, and some guy from Danforth Tech ran into me and tore my ACL, it was like he was changing my life. He was changing the direction of my world, and I would have named him if I knew who he was, but I don't. But yeah, so I wanted, because teachers also, I think, they have a huge, like, I really do believe that if you're going to be a well-adjusted person, if you don't get enough love, if you don't get enough kind of affection, enough positive reinforcement, somebody kind of patting your back and giving you a little bit of a rub and saying, you know what, you're okay, you're special, you're good. If you don't get that at certain parts of your life, then you can really get screwed up. You can really end up having problems. And if you get sort of too much of it in one way, and there is this thing of, you're always seeking a kind of an approval. You want people to like you. You want to do something that someone will like and give you praise for. And, hey, mommy, watch me. Watch what I can do. A certain amount of it is perfectly healthy. But, like, I saw a thing the other night of Taylor Swift, the movie that she made. And I'm not a Swiftie, but man, I'm a big fan. Like, I think that woman is incredible. Like, she's very, very talented. She really knows what she's doing. But she admits, oh man, I got this thing where I want to make people happy. I'm seeking everybody's approval all the time. And I go, oh yeah, Taylor, you and me, we're just like that. Yeah. So, I don't claim to be very healthy, but I have got a lot of people in my life. I've had them, and I still have them, who they help me be healthy. They give me the benefit of the doubt, and it allows me to fight the good fight another day. Yeah. I have a little pile of things that, because I knew I was going to be doing your show, and I thought, okay, before we go, I want to walk John through these things, because there's stories and stuff, and it kind of relates to the book, but it relates to my studio here. Yeah. Okay. So just remember that's there, and come back.
We can do that right now if you want.
Okay. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. So these are things I've ordered. My studio is almost complete, but I still need to put up some 8x10s and some framed things. So I've ordered the frames, and they're coming. But these are the things that remain to be framed and put up in my studio. Okay. So here's the first one. I'm going to hold this up so you can see it. This is an autographed picture of Jerry Seinfeld, because I had a good friend who was the entertainment coordinator at the Borgata, and he was playing there in New Jersey. And so one day they said, hey, you'll never guess this, I got Jerry Seinfeld's autograph for you. So
hey, before you go on, you know what I was watching just before we did the interview? The George Costanza thing where he says, you son of bitches. Bastards! I was just watching that as you dialed in.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I was not a Seinfeld fan at the beginning because in the show I would watch it and I would go, there's no one here that I can like. They're all very unlikable people. But of course, that was the thing, that they've made a TV show where you're not supposed to like them. They're not heroic in any. Okay, here's the next one. So this was one of the big moments. So there's pictures of this in my memoir.
Yes.
But there's me and Steve Morse playing together on, I can't remember the date now, but it was in 1987, maybe June of 87. And I have several from that thing. But Steve Morse is one of the greatest guitar players on the planet Earth. And that was an incredible night of my life. And in fact, I have another one that I'm going to put up. This is me and Ed Pickard. And so this is,
You and I've talked about him many times. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like, he's a huge role model of mine, kind of hero. And he was the most unheroic kind of hero. Now, let me try to put this in perspective, what's going on here for your viewers and your listeners. So Ed was going to play Suitcase Blues with me that night. And he came out and he sat down, and it was a room full of guitar heads, like, because there was Morris and there was Leona Boyd, and there was just, it was they called it the night of 1,000 guitars. And Ed was kind of, the jazz guy, So he comes out and the dance floor is packed, and it's all these, mostly guys from probably the ages of 17 to, 35 kind of. And they start cheering for Ed, and they keep cheering, and the cheering keeps growing and growing and swelling. And he's sitting there, and he's never experienced anything like this in his life, right? He usually plays quiet little places where people are supposed to shut up and listen. But here's this thing where he's getting this like pure love, pure adulation kind of thing. And he does a Jack Benny thing where he puts his hand up on his cheek. And this picture, like, look at him. He's this is the moment where
just like
going, Rochester, I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
And I just loved that moment so much, and God bless him. Now, by the way, I'm going to show you this too. This is a guitar that I've just had custom made, which is a Telecaster, because Becker got me into Telecasters. And this guitar weighs almost nothing. It's like 6.5 pounds, because this is all hollowed out. But I'm a big Tele guy because of Ed. Now, the thing about this guitar is it looks like a Tele in a way, but it's like a Gibson Les Paul, the bridge and the string height and the neck angle. This is like Les Paul. The string playing is like Les Paul. The guitar's like Tele. So I wanted to show you that. Okay, we're going through the pictures.
This is fun.
Yeah. Better than, yak about my book. Oh, but this is from the book too.
Chet.
Here's a picture of me and Chet Atkins. Yeah, 1979. And I was meeting him in his office. And Chet Atkins has a guitar in every corner of every room in the office. Like the RCA building on, Publishers Row in Nashville, he was the landlord. He owned the bill. Because, of course, he was the A&R man who had signed Elvis and stuff. So, Chet was a made man once that had happened with RCA.
What was he like?
Oh, it was incredible. He was the country gentleman is absolutely the right nickname for him, because he kind of had this aw shucks kind of thing, but the stories of him are legion, right? So one of the things that happened the day we were there was when I went to shake his hand, he won't offer his right hand because his right hand is his picking hand. So he reaches across with his left hand and he kind of shakes your hand with his left hand, and you kind of go, what's that all about? But it's because he's not going to give you his right. If you squeezed it too hard, he would not be happy, right? So but another thing about Chet, I love this story, and I heard this just recently. He was a guy said to him, Chet, what is the Nashville sound, man? What is the Nashville sound? And Chet kind of looks at him, and this is that, country corn pone, hee-haw kind of thing that he had in him, right? And he looks at the guy, and he puts his hand in his pockets, and he jiggles his change, and he goes, that's the Nashville sound.
Whoa! I thought he was going to say it'll be on vinyl in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so speaking of Chet, I'm going to show you this one now. This is going to get a frame of its own. This was an album when I met him that day. uh, he'd sign some pictures for me, and blah 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 blah. And he goes, "Is there anything else you want?" And he had these albums that he just made. It was called the Nashville Guitar Quartet with Leona Boyd and a couple of his local pals, and they were leaning up against the wall. And I said, "Do you think I could have one of those?" And so he signed it for me, and I don't know if this will show up. But it says, "To Rik, thanks for wanting this." Because of course he couldn't really give these away, right? Like, they weren't selling, because this was just Chet being Chet, doing what, and this is an incredible record. It's great art, but anyways, thanks for wanting this. So that's going up on my studio wall. Oh dear. Here's another picture from the book. This is me on stage in the Cotton Bowl in Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
In 1983 with terrible Ted Nugent up there in his shorts or his loincloth or something. And then Sammy Hagar. And Sammy doesn't even have a guitar. He's really just singing into one of those head mics, but we were rocking it up. And the story that's in the book, I mean, I don't know if it's in the book or not. Certainly I played those gigs. I'll tell the story quick. 2 nights, right? We played the Cotton Bowl in Dallas. The next night we played the Astrodome in Houston. And it was a big show that had Ted, us, Sammy, and then Styx was the big headliner. And of course, Ted got up there and just annihilated everybody. Triumph, we pretty much did, a pile driving rock and roll machine kind of set. And then, Sammy would get up there and just annihilate, And of course, Tommy Shaw of Styx was backstage with Dennis DeYoung going, "Dennis, we can't do Mr. Roboto. Like, we can't. Like, please don't make us do that. We shouldn't do Babe. We should just do Blue Collar Man." And Dennis is going, "No, we're going to do our thing. Everybody put on your costumes. We're going to go do our Broadway show." And it was like, oh, and the people would just leave in droves when Styx was doing their thing. Anyways, and part of the thing with Sammy too was he knew he was going to drive the steak home, because he goes, "Hey, Ted, hey, Rik, would you like to get up and jam with me? We could do a Whole Lot of Love." And I go, "Yeah, that sounds like, for an outdoor show, by the time people have got through, 2.5 rock bands, like, that's a pretty good idea." So we get up there and we get about, to the point of the song where there's going to be the breakdown and that weird little drum solo and the buggada bum 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 boom boom, the guitar fills. But we're just jamming, right? So we're at that point, and it's just going to be this guitar jam. No one is going to know what's going to happen. Ted takes off. This is the first night in Dallas. He takes off, and then Sammy takes off chasing him, and they're running around. They go over the way stage right, and then they come ripping across. And I go, "Those sons of bitches!" I jump and I run and I start chasing them after they left me behind in the dust. So the next night when we're in Houston, I go, "I know when the queue's coming. I'm going to jump the queue." And so before we get there, I start running. And then they got to go, boom, and then now they got to chase me, right? And so after we finish, I get in the elevators to go up to the private booths that are at the top of the Astrodome, and Ted's in the. Him and I are almost. I think there might have been a road manager, but we're kind of alone in the elevator. And Ted is about 6'2" or 6'3", and he turns to me and he looks down at me and he goes, "Hey, man, you stole my move." And I turn and I go, "Oh God, I'm gonna die," And he goes, "That was awesome. That was great." I go, "Oh, thank God. Ted's not gonna kill me."
Killed by Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
We always knew the Nugent had it in him. He killed somebody.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Here we go. This is Pat Metheny signed picture. Pat Metheny is one of my great favorite artists, and Rick Wharton is a guy that I don't know, got backstage at a show in Ottawa or something. So I have Pat's autograph, and I think this is the greatest guitar artist on the planet Earth. So
by the way, I love Rick Wharton too. I think he's such a nice human being. I know you go way back with him. I had a long chat with him a little while ago about some of the things he's doing. And That guy's salt of the earth. Funny guy
He
too.
he is. Anybody that had to survive as a, a regional marketing sales guy for MCA Records in Canada. Yeah, I love Spud, and he's been going through some health things lately, but I think he's going to make it through. And yeah, so I love him too. Now, okay, so finally, my wife worked at Capitol in the '70s, and maybe into the early '80s before she, quit and started having kids, and she was the office coordinator for Dean Cameron in A&R. He eventually became the president of the company. But anyways, one day Brian May came by because Capitol was EMI was putting out there. I think this was the greatest hits record at the time. So I have this album flat signed by Brian May, and it just says to Rik, best wishes, and I think it says take care, Triumph. I go, okay, but it's signed by Brian May. So I have Brian May's autograph. So I want to have the autograph of an astrophysicist up in my
Yeah,
studio.
that's right. Whenever they talk about the rock stars with hidden talents, he's always right up there, man.
Yeah, of course. But he's also, that one of my favorite bands, one of my favorite guitar players in terms of phrasing and sound and identity. And he's just as good as it gets. So anyhow, that's it. That was my little pile of things that's gonna.
Yay! Well, thank you. You've got on your list "Still Life Talking," one of my all-time favorite albums too. Matheny, first concert I saw when I moved from Edmonton to Vancouver. I almost cried. I did, because obviously Lyle was there. We've lost him now, but Lyle has this moodiness, about him. He creates this mood. Those guys work together so well.
Yeah, and their shared love of Bill Evans. Like, I don't know if you have a lot of Bill Evans records, but if you want to get to where Lyle got that, it comes from Bill Evans. And so, and Bill played with Miles Davis and did many records of his own. There's a great record. I think it's Bill Evans and Toot Steelman. So it's just harmonica and piano, and it's really good. So anyhow, blah
When I
blah
was
blah.
young, someone gave me Keith Jarrett's Cone concert. I remember going, is he grunting? What's going? I remember that just transfixed me. And then after that, I got into Bill Evans.
Yeah, yeah,
Late for Bill Evans, because then I read up about his life and I went, oh my God, there's another Jaco Pastorius, like just
yeah.
the tortured genius thing of, and it comes up lately in almost every interview. I was talking to Sylvia Tyson the other day, name dropper John Bowden. And she was talking about all these people that she knew in the early days, and she says they're all dead. She's like, I don't know how I'm still here. Even Ian's dead, and but we've lost so many people. I mean, even going through your history, look how many people in that timeline.
Yeah.
And look at your brothers. I appreciated the story of your brothers. I appreciate the fact that your younger brother kind of gave you the nudge, and we'll get to that maybe in a second. But how close were you to your brothers?
Not very close to my older brother, extremely close to my younger brother in ways that were more about just emotion more than seeing him a lot. Because once you're in a rock band and you're touring, I mean, I didn't see my wife a lot for, the first 10 years. And then even when I was home, now I'm off to the studio and I'm putting in 12, 14-hour days. And so I didn't get to see this one of the sort of regrets of my life, that the things that I should have prioritized more in terms of time, I didn't, but having said that, once I got out of Triumph, my brother and I played together in a men's softball league, and so we had a lot of great times together. And so I was really close to my younger brother, Russell. But my older brother, Rob, he had a tough life. My mom was under the impression that she'd had a long, difficult childbirth with him, and she felt he'd been oxygen deprived. And so
You mentioned that, yeah, in the book.
yeah, yeah. And it wasn't like he had learning disabilities. But in those days, everybody would just say, well, he's slow, he's slow. And they would put him at the back of the classroom and let him work at his own tempo. He failed grade 2. And I was in a class that accelerated grades 3 and 4 into grade 5. So by grade 5, I'd caught up to him, but he was 2 years older than me. But my brother was the kind of guy that would be like, there would be something that happened at recess in the schoolyard, and it would be that some bully was beating up my brother, and I would have to try and go to the rescue of my older brother, those kinds of things. They're bringing you together, and they're making you closer, but at the same time, they're making you realize, well, there's a gap between us. There's a distance here, and I was always sort of in the, they called it the brain class, and because I had these sort of gifts where music and art and sports for me, I was good at all the extracurriculars of school, and my brother, he didn't have any of that stuff. And so later in life, he ended up having issues. He started smoking when he was about 15 years old, and he just never stopped. And then he's got older, he was drinking, and he wouldn't stop. And yeah, so all of these kinds of dependencies and addictions, and they landed him in, he burned out every single bridge in the, Greater Toronto area social welfare system, and had been to rehab and had been to his 12 steps. He probably did them 4 times, and eventually he had a cancer that he couldn't beat, But having said all that, my older brother was also, he was religious. He had a profound faith, and he believed that he was going to, and I would sit with him in the hospital, and in the end, and I would say, hey man, you're going to, you believe you're going to go get to meet your God. So think about that. Think about, what you might want to say, and how, how it might go, because that was really all he had to, that was where it was headed, So, yeah, I think he got some comfort out of that, and we were close. My brother sort of found the best part of himself when he was dying. That was my older brother. My younger brother always had the best part of him readily available to anyone that, wanted to. Okay, I have a great little brother story that's not in the book. You want me to tell you this?
Yeah, of course.
So I did one of these rock cruise things where one of the headliners was Paul Rogers, and he's fantastic, by the way. Like, still got all of his chops. Yeah, the man can bring it, right? And so we're leaving, and we've got off the boat, and we're at the airport, and we're waiting at our gates. And I go up to him, and I haven't seen him on the boat, but I say, Mr. Rogers. I'm going, hey man, I gotta say, I'm just a huge fan. I love your stuff. And he goes, well, I'd like you to meet my wife. And up steps this gorgeous looking woman that's got to be, 25 years younger than he is, kind of thing, and probably his second wife, And I recognize her, and I can't remember her last name. She's Cindy something. She was a former Miss Canada, and my wife had known her at the Fitness Institute in Mississauga, where she used to do workouts and stuff, but she also had a TV show where she was doing the 20-minute workout kind of thing. And she was this incredibly gorgeous, incredibly fit kind of human being. And she starts to tell the story of how my brother tried to woo her, right? Way back in the day. And I'm going, what? She's going, oh yeah. She goes, he used to show up at work, and he would bring to my office at the fitness place. He would bring my morning coffee, because I wouldn't have had. One of the things I complained to him about once was, I don't even have time to get my coffee in the morning. And so he would show up with her coffee for her. And then he was going, it was Cynthia or Cindy. Anyways, he goes, is there anything else, that, like, what is it about your life that if you could fix it? She goes, well, I don't even have time to get my nails done. I think it was nails. I don't think it was hair, it was nails. And so the next day she shows up to work, and the woman at the front desk says, oh, Cindy, there's somebody waiting in your office. And she goes, what? I don't have an appointment. And she goes up there, and My brother is there with a nails lady so that she can get her nails done. Now
he got game, man.
Yeah, and he was, he was going all out. This is my brother. He would, if he just set his sights on something and he wanted it, he was going to go for it. And he was a salesman, like in a big way. So here's Paul Rogers standing there, and he turns to me in that British accent, going like, "Oh, I can't compete with that, man. That's just terrible. That's horrible. What kind of a brother you got? He sets such a high standard. I can't possibly meet this." I'm going, "Oh God," hilarious. Anyhow, so that was a story about my brother.
They sat beside me at I remember Alfie stayed at my house. Alfie Zappa stayed at my house here. Him and I forget his manager's name, Annie, or anyway, they stayed here. And then I was going, he said, "Well, I'm doing a concert. Where are you going next?" "Going to Vancouver." I said, "Oh, I'm going to Vancouver." Bell's, then it was Chums, is flying me in because I still work there. So I flew in. And I said, "Let me introduce you there too. I'll introduce you." So I introduced him. And then halfway through the concert, I look around going, I tell Shannon, says, "That guy looks like Paul Rogers." There's this beautiful girl with him because they lived in Vancouver. I don't know if they still do. They did.
Naramata or in and around the bottom of the Okanagan-ish.
Okay.
Somewhere, okay. What's Penticton or Naramata?
Yeah, Penticton. That's where Shannon's from. So anyway.
And wine country.
Yeah. So anyway, after the show, there's a picture of Alfie with Paul Rogers. I said, "Oh my God, it was Paul Rogers." He's sitting right beside us at the table beside us. I'm going, "Yes, she was very beautiful."
Yeah.
Very beautiful. Okay. Your grandfather, that little guitar, we're going way back calendar pages, which you're used to these days. You're already fiddling around. He gave you the guitar and you started playing it, right? Your grandfather?
Yeah, I singing in the choir and playing harmonica. Our house, we didn't have a lot of money, so we didn't have instruments. But my grandfather rescued this guitar and brought it over. But I was wanting to play like McCartney. I was left-handed and I wanted to play this way. So I had the guitar upside down, but I was picking out melodies and working things out. And then a strange thing happened where I won 8 free lessons from the Regency School of Music in West Toronto, and which was really just, they were handing out flyers in the schoolyards and locally in order to try and drum up business. They get you in there, give you some free lessons, and then tell your parents, "Oh, Mr. or Mrs. Emmett, your son's very gifted. He really should, we need to sign him up." And so, but in this case, the guy that was the teacher there, his name was Jack Arsenault. And he said to me, "Yeah, you're not going to play like this. You're going to learn like this." And I went, "No." And he goes, "Look, I'm left-handed. If your left hand's on the fretboard, I'm telling you, it gives you a huge advantage." And so he said, "Just give me a month and you're going to be better than all your right-handed pals. When you meet for your little basement band get-together to try and play Beatles songs, you're going to be the guitar player that's teaching everybody else how to do it. Because they're not even going to be able to hold down, the F chord in the first position where your finger has to hold 2 strings." Like, it's true. And it made it so that there was this natural thing now that I was kind of gifted at, and it gave me a leapfrogged me into this world, and it started with my grandfather's guitar, with the hula dancer on the front and the palm trees and the
cross dominant. Is that what that is? You mentioned,
yeah.
I don't know the word after that. Dextro, blah, blah, blah.
Dextro, sinistro. Like if you think about, the word sinister, it comes from, I think, Latin or Greek, or left is sinistra. So if you're dextro, that's right. If you're sinistral, that's left. So if you're dextro sinistral, you're doing fine motor control here, things of gross motor control with your, and you can be the other way around. You could be sinistro dextral, and that would be that your fine motor control is your left hand, and the thing you would pound a nail with a hammer would be your right. So, and the in the book it says this, there's 10 people out of 100 are left-handed. 1 people out of 100 are cross-dominant. So that's even more of a kind of a fluky brain thing. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier. Like I am what I am, and this was my chemistry. The way I was wired. But guitar was something that was like and I think creativity too. I think. Somebody asked me recently on my members forum about this thing about brain hemispheres, and do you think that makes you smarter or better or whatever. And I go, no, but I do think it gives me an advantage when it comes to creativity. I do think the ability, and this is how I put it in my answer. I said, most folks, 1 and 1 equals 2. 1 plus 1 equals 2. But to people that are, brain hemisphere cross dominant, I think it's easier for us to see that 1 and 1 can equal 3. So, and I think that's the truth of creativity. Creative folks see answers, see potential, where your average person goes, "What are you talking about? What do you mean? There's a connection between these two disparate things? No, that's not." And I go, "No, yeah, you can make it make sense, But of course, it could be just brain disease."
You know those little memes we see on Facebook and stuff when you see the most interesting man in the world? I'm going to change that and put your picture on it. By the way, I've interviewed you more than anybody else ever in 40 years. You know that?
That's nice.
There you go. You and Steve Hackett from Genesis is second, and I think Mark Farner's not far behind.
Yes.
So it's all guitarists, man.
Man, nice company, though.
We don't get political on our channel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think that's wise, But I do think it's interesting that there are creative people that they're really driven. They really have a sense of their own kind of righteousness, and that can be dangerous, and I don't necessarily have that. I have a pretty strong streak of humility and modesty in me, which is not to say that I don't. Somebody asked me a question the other day about, Triumph, and, did I think that Gil was maybe taking a little shot at me? And I go, well, he might have been, but I said, you know what? I was also the kind of guy that maybe deserved a shot from time to time.
In what context he was taking a shot? Sorry to interrupt you.
It was it was about the ending of the band and the last straw of the Sport of Kings record, where the lyrics had got changed to one of my songs and stuff.
And they didn't ask you.
No, they did not seek permission, which it was a kind of a violation of the whole Three Musketeers thing for me, And so I kind of went, well, clearly it's over, I got to have to figure out a way to get out, and I, I'm sure he regretted it. But like I said, I'm sure there were arguments and fights from time to time where both Gil and Mike would be, when I wasn't in the room, they'd be saying like, man, that guy, what a piece of work he is. Like, what, he can really be a jerk and an asshole. And I think I could be, I really do think that I did have that creative artist kind of, no, I really believe in this. I'm gonna go to the mat to fight for this, And sometimes it's not a good way to behave, You can still do it, but just don't be a jerk about it, Anyways.
The song was Rock You Down, right?
Yeah. And when I'd originally written it, the lyric was a very Pete Townsend kind of thing about every generation comes along and finds a way to come into conflict with the generation before it, want to change the world, want to make the world, fix it in their own image, which it's a healthy thing. It's a right thing. And the quote that I'd already picked to put with the lyric page in the album and on the, in those days there was still vinyl, but in the booklet and stuff was a quote from, I think, Benjamin Franklin or somebody that was like, hey, every now and then a little revolution is a good thing. And then Gil changed the lyric and the song was about, hey, hot looking chick, I'd really like to get into your pants. I want to rock you down. And I went, oh no, like, really? Oh no,
By the way, what sport were you playing when a certain teammate looked at a girl, pointed at her and said, that girl, it's Jeanette, right? What sport were you playing when he said that?
We might have been playing a game of murder ball or spider hockey, because it was a BAA GAA night. So the Boys Athletic Association, girls, and we had separate gyms, but you could walk through a doorway to get from one to the other. And in the boys' gym, I would have been playing something, pick up basketball against the is two teachers, the men teachers or something, and then went over into the girls' gym so that I could catch the chicks in their aerobics outfits doing the balance beam. Yeah. Oh, I liked those little black leotard things. They were awesome. So, and then, yeah, a girl came up to me and said, "Hey, see that girl over there on the other side of the gym? She really likes you." And I looked over and I go, "She's in grade 9." And I was in grade 11. And I go, "Not interested." So I was interested in chasing cheerleaders that would have nothing to do with me.
Yeah, but you had the blonde hair and everything. I don't get that.
No, no, I had girls that did like me, but I wanted the ones that I couldn't get. You know, that was where I would set my sights. Or the ones that I could get, and then they would break my heart.
Yeah.
Because they were really going to make sure that they were going to check out lots of guys, and you would go, "No, I thought we had something exclusive going here." Okay, but you live and learn.
So
And I
you
eventually ended up with that girl at the side of the gym.
wrote only 4 years later, Triumph would play Maple Leaf Gardens, front page of the entertainment section in the mid 80s. You bought your parents a house and your dad looks at you and says, "So this music theme seems to be working out, eh?"
Yeah. It's a nice way to sort of shortcut, what can be a long story of the conflict between my dad and I, which, sometimes it would be, there would be detente and my dad would tolerate, but he just didn't get it. He was not raised that way. And he was very much about duty and loyalty. And, he worked in the same company for 46 years. And he believed that, you had to have a job and you had to settle in and that's how you could provide for your family. And here I was, staying out too late, going to band rehearsals and now, going on the road and, not shaving for, 4 months, and coming back home and he going like, you look like a bum, you look like a, yeah. So, uh, but I mean, he did eventually, love me for who I was, and my mom had a lot to do with kind of leavening that with my dad, and then of course after my mom passed and my brothers were gone, there was only me and my dad left, and I had to be the principal caregiver for him as he, was slowly but surely heading into dementia and all of those kinds of things that if you make it to 92, you're outliving all of your parts, Yeah.
92.
So 92. Yeah. Yeah.
That I
Yeah.
like that picture of you at the step and he's going to work and had good girl legs, by the way, back then. I'm not sure how I don't want to know what they look like now, but that was you're sporting it.
My mom had great legs, and I inherited a fair bit of my I'm 70 years old, but I still have a kind of a youthful face. That was my mom and my grandmother on my mom's side.
You must get that a lot.
I have a lot.
I meant to tell you a while ago. Sorry to interrupt. You must get that a lot. I get it, but you're way outpacing me because I'm 63, and of course Shannon's like think about it now. She's 52. Yes, that's right. She still gets ID'd, but anyway, you must get that a lot. Though. I'm not putting you in a weird situation, but you got to get that a lot.
Yeah, I do, and that people go, "Oh, when I tell people I'm 70, and they go, 'No, are you kidding me? No, that's not,' And I kind of like that. It's kind of nice that I've always kind of liked it when I was screwing around with people's expectations or perceptions or something. So that's a shallow one, but it's one I'm happy to take. However, I've been doing a lot of these podcasts lately, and then when I see them later, and I realize, oh boy, there's this stuff that it's the dead giveaway of. It's why Don Cherry would wear. No. I need a really high collar and a big tie.
New baby. All of a sudden, there's a fan trying to knock on invading your space. I've always forgotten to ask people about that because obviously that happens. Tell us that story.
Yeah, that one in particular, and I could have told any one of a couple of dozen, but this one is the one that made it to the book because it was the one that stuck with me in a life-changing kind of way. So first child, bring it home from the hospital day, up to the bedroom, beautiful April spring day, fresh, beautiful breeze. So windows were all open, and we're up in the second floor, and my wife is sitting in the rocker, and she, for the first time she's breastfeeding the baby, and we're just having one of those moments that's like, and all of a sudden I can hear horn honking and from in front of the house, and I go to the front of the house and I look out the window and I can see there's these guys, they've got this car that's like, something right out of Cheech and Chong. I'm not joking. The smoke from, the grass smoke was just pouring out the windows of this thing, and they're going, "Hey, Rick, hey, Rocket, hey, man, Triumph." And they got the music on their 8-track. Boy, I don't know if it was an 8-track, but that just helps the story. So, so they come up and they're walking across my front lawn and they're coming to the front door, and I'm going, oh my, well, I'm not answering the door, and they're ringing the doorbell and they're knocking and stuff and they're yelling my name. And in those days, I had a nice big lot where the house was, a big long driveway up to the house, but I didn't have any fences or anything. So then they came around the back. They just came walking around and they came up on the back deck and they were looking in the windows. And they're yelling that now they can see, guitars and gold records on the walls, and they're going, "Yeah, man, this is his place. Yeah, oh, I'm going, oh, God." So when they finally gave up and they went away, the first thing that Jeanette and I did was get on the phone to, like security companies, like, okay, we're going to put in, barbed wire fences and landmines, and we had a guy come out and he looked around and he said, "You got too many basement windows. You got stairs that go up to the second floor in the back." He goes, "Your house is a nightmare. Let me tell you what to do, okay? First of all, you're going to build big fences along your property line at the back. So you're going to, barricade, because the back is the only place you can establish a perimeter. At the front, you're going to put one of these, intercom things by the door. And, anybody comes and they ring your bell and you don't want them, just go to the intercom and go, 'Hello, no, he no longer live here,' and my wife was really good at that. She didn't do Mexicans, but she would say, nah, he moved away a long time ago. And, they would buy it. Anyway, so then he said, here's a card. Friend of mine trains the dogs for the Hamilton Wentworth drug squad, chase guys down at the airport squad, German Shepherds. They're trained to kill on the right command, And I went, all right. So I bought a dog. I think at the time the dog was $800 and the training was $800. So it was $1,600, but it was way cheaper than if I had tried to, and the dog was incredible. It was really gentle with the baby and perfectly fine around the family. But if the dog was on a leash and I just gave the leash a little bit of a yank and said the word "watch," the dog would like just turn into this. And the way you see those videos where a guy's wearing padded elbows and the dog, the dogs come and they bite him and they chase him down and they pull him down. Like the dog was trained to be able to do that stuff, So we had big "beware of dog" signs on the fence. And after that, we had never had a problem. They'd come to the door, and there would be times, there would be like one night where there would be a car full of, I'm saying this because it's, self-aggrandizing, but a car full of young, attractive ladies. And they would come to the doorbell and say, "Oh, we got a flat tire. Can we use your phone?" To which my wife would be standing at the door going, "No. Well, you give me the phone number of, that you want, and I'll call for you." And then they would go, "Oh, no. Does Rik Emmett live here?" My wife would go, "No, he moved away a long time ago. Goodbye."
When I read that part about the guys coming, with the car, I thought this is like a Santa Claus story. Doug and Bob McKenzie do live. They're real.
Yeah, it wasn't 2 guys. It was 4. There was it was like a tiny little Cheech and Chong bike gang. You know what they looked like? They looked like the Sons of Anarchy.
Oh God! How about the
That's
chicken
gross,
story?
but it's also pretty. That's the first time I've ever heard of that one.
Yeah. Well, everyone loves that one. And then I know you like the Moody Blues, but Justin Hayward just was on a plane, and the guy's looking at him. This has got like a zillion hits. The guy's looking at him and says, "What do I know you from?" He says, "Well, I don't know," because he could see it coming. You've probably seen that. I said, "No, come on. I know. I know you from something." And then finally, after 3 or 4 times, Justin tells him, he's, "Well, I do a show on the BBC, and you might have. I'm also in a band called the Moody Blues." And he stops and thinks. And he goes, "No, that's not it."
Yeah, I've had that one. I've had that one a couple of times.
No, you're not him.
Yeah, I know. I go, well, I'm Rik Emmett from Triumph. He goes, no, that's not it. You go, that's not it. That's not it. Okay, see you, buddy.
Okay, what about the one last one about that? The you're in the supermarket, everyone's too busy to cook that night.
Yeah, it's the greasy chicken story. Yeah. So my wife and I, it's been a long day. It's a Friday, I think, Friday night, and we're both tired. It's been a long week. And, and when I had 4 kids, so at a certain point in our lives, when we would go grocery shopping, you had to have 2 carts because they would be bringing their friends and their girlfriends and their boyfriends. And, our house was like Grand Central Station sometimes for everybody, which I didn't mind. I liked that. I liked that the party was going to come to our house. That gave us a modicum of control over what might happen, anyhow. So, yeah, so we're there, and we get to the checkout, and my wife turns to me and she goes, "I don't want to cook." And I go, "Me neither." She goes, "Go over to the barbecue chicken counter and get one of the barbecue chickens and the sliced potato things, and that's what we'll do." I go, "Okay, fine, great." So I go over, but it's sold out. They've only got one left, and when the guy hands it to me, the lid is cracked. So I'm trying to be careful, and he puts it into the bag and stuff, but it's leaking, and now it's getting, as I'm walking away, it's getting all over my hands, and I'm really, I've got chicken grease all over. Just then, a guy comes down and out the end gable of the aisle, and he goes, "Oh my God! Oh my God! You're Rik Emmett. You're Rik Emmett." I'm going, "Yes, I am." He's going, "Oh my God, what are you doing here, man?" I go, "Well, clearly I'm shopping, grocery shopping." He's going, "Oh my God, oh me, I saw your band in blah 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 blah, and I loved you, and I bought this record, and I had, and I gave a copy of it to my friend Jimmy, and Jimmy once said." Oh, here's the story. I'm standing there, and the chicken is, getting all over my hands, and he doesn't really pick up on the fact that I'm finding this, frustrating, and I want to get out of this. He doesn't pick up on that vibe at all. And then in the end, he goes, "Okay, listen, I don't want an autograph or nothing. I don't need that. Can I just shake your hand?" I go, "Yes, you can." So it's like, the chicken grease goes all over his hand, and then he's looking at his hand like, "What the fuck?" And I'm going, "See ya." And I go, and so then I get over to the checkout, and and I put the chicken down, and my wife looks at me, she goes, "What is that?" Because the bag is, it's got grease. I go, "Honey, the thing is cracked. There's nothing I can do." And she goes, "Where have you been?" I go, "Well, I've been playing rock star."
That's one of my favorites in the whole book. Hope you enjoyed our full interview with Rik Emmett. This is like, I don't know, is this the 10th time we've talked to him? I consider that man a pal, and I'm glad he's still around doing what he does. Remember, if you want to support the channel, help us grow, there are links to our PayPal. You can make a PayPal donation. The link is at the very top of the description. You can join our Patreon, get early access to our videos, like our videos, subscribe to our channel, comment on them, and share them. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music. Take care of yourself.